Hello and welcome again to our Live at Focus Physio. Right, we're continuing on to our back pain series. So in part one, we were talking about regional interdependence, how each part of your body can affect other parts, and how it commonly impacts the lower back, and that causes your lower back pain, usually the hips and the upper trunk and spine. We're going to our second part now, where we're talking about the myths that we commonly hear in our clinic regarding lower back pain. So one of the most common things we hear is that people say they've put up their back. And yes, it is absolutely true that people can put out their backs. Usually this is a little bit more traumatic in terms of nature of accident, such as a car crash, falling out of significant height, some kind of impact. And these are the kind of low back pain that you've put out. But in terms of putting it back in, you wouldn't need a therapist. What you'd need at that point would be something like a surgery with a surgeon, where they literally go back into there and put it back in. And that might involve a few screws and metal bits and pieces there. For most of us, that's not the case. Most of our back pain is coming from our daily activities, stuff we normally do, our posture, ergonomics, lifting, things like that. In which case, the back pain we're feeling is not really being pulled out. It's just a back sprain where it becomes stiff in one particular direction. That's why it feels like it's being out that way, and your therapist loosens it back the other way, and then you feel it being put back in. That's the general idea how most people get their back pain. The second myth that most people think of sometimes is that back pain is inherited. Yes, there's back pain that you get when you're born, and there's certain things that you inherited, such as spinal fusion, rheumatoid arthritis, ankylosing spondylitis, inherited scoliosis. These are the things that you can inherit from when you're born, stuff from your parents. That's true. Once again, we go back to the fact that most of us actually get back pain throughout our lifetime, because these conditions are relatively uncommon. There are people with it, and there are management for these people, but for most of us, our back pain is more coming from the things we've developed in our lifetime, our ergonomics, the way we lift, the way we work, the way we do our daily living, and that ties into our back pain. Our low back is a vulnerable spot that we need to protect, but it doesn't mean we just look at the low back. As our part one series talked about, we need to have good movement in our hips, good movement everywhere else in our body to make sure our low back doesn't get implicated by the other parts. The third most common myth, it's not really a myth, it's a question that people often ask. What's clicking? What's clicking pain? Is my joint bad because it's clicking? In the general consensus, based on our current scientific research, clicking does not give a good indication whether a joint is good or bad. Clicking just means the joint is moving. What gives a good indication if the joint is bad? Then we're talking about restrictions. Is it strong in terms of function? Can it do its movement? Is there any pain? And of course, there's going to be scans and anything related to the joint itself. In saying that, there's a lot of scans where the joint may not be looking good in terms of degeneration and things like that. But among the people with these kind of degeneration scans, they don't have any problem. So just because you have pain and the scan shows you've got issues with the joint, it doesn't mean the pain is coming from that, what you see in the scan. Coming to the topic of pain is always something we want to look into. Pain is the body telling us something's wrong. Something's got to be fixed or changed. The diagnosis is usually simple. With the pain, there's usually some kind of inflamed or damaged structure in the body. It doesn't have to be a huge damage. The amount of pain you get does not equal the amount of damage. For example, if you've got a sprained ligament or pulled ligament, that's usually quite painful. But as opposed if you have a completely torn ligament, that's usually less painful. And the reason for that is if you completely tear it, there's nothing to stretch to pull to make it sore. But if you just pull it, it's still there, you pull it, that's sore. So the amount of damage you have does not equal the amount of pain. So watch that. Another thing that we always bump into over and over again, when you got pain, we can find a diagnosis usually. Diagnosis means there's a certain structure there, there's damage or inflamed or something's wrong with it. But the diagnosis doesn't mean the cause. The cause is the part that made the pain or the diagnosis present in the first place. A simple example is if you're running and you felt a calf pull. Calf strain right there. Diagnosis is usually quite simple. Okay, you felt the pain in the calf, you've pulled a calf muscle, you've strained that calf muscle, there's damage in that calf muscle. That's the diagnosis, calf muscle strain. But the cause can be a little bit more complex, as we've discussed in our first part of our series. It can be coming from your hips. Maybe your hips is not firing as you're running. Maybe you're not running with your trunk bringing you forward. So your calf is the one compensating, pushing you forward every single step until it gets pulled and breaks and gets back. So what does this link to our back pain? Pain is something we definitely want to look into, especially if you're getting it consistently and not where you expect it. You can definitely see someone about it. Definitely recommend that. But what we're going to get into as well in our third part of our series is some management. You can have a look into that and see how you feel about that. If you've got any questions regarding back pain, comments, send us a link, send us a comment or send us a message on the comments section below, and we'll bring it right back to you. Have a nice day, everyone. Cheers.